This is my dream home golf simulator. And 3 years ago, I built this thing for right around $6,000. We posted some of the longest hitters in the world.
World! 400 carry!
And as our channel's grown, we've been sent nearly every single golf simulator product on the market. So today, I'm gonna show you how to build this thing for the original budget of $6,000. I'm gonna show you what more you could get with the Prosumer budget. And finally, if you want the best of the best, we're gonna show you how to build it on a premium budget. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna go over is your flooring and your turf. So the budget option, which is originally what we went with, was to find the cheapest turf possible for everywhere but the hitting zone. So essentially what we did, we found turf on a closeout sale that still looked nice. Now, this turf, especially if you're going budget, it doesn't have to be awesome because you're not hitting off of this turf, you're just standing on it. So I would get a turf that is cheap but looks good, and you really want to spend a little more on the hitting strip. Now, once you get your turf, there's another piece you need to get, and that is these 1-inch interlocking foam tiles. So basically, these are just puzzle piece foam tiles, and all you do is you just connect them together. So putting the flooring down, Ryan, is probably one of the easiest pieces. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put these foam tiles down, then you're gonna lay your turf over top of it, and then after that, you're gonna use one of these electric cutters, or you can use scissors if you want it to take a long time, and basically just cut your line. Now, this turf is over 3 years old. So you guys can see it's held up great over 3 years. You don't have to spend any more than that, but if you want to spend a little more, Ryan's gonna explain how you could take this from kind of your budget level to your premium level.
All right, so like Jock said, we in our simulator room here have the budget turf. We personally are against putting on the simulator because we don't want to work on that aspect of our game in here. We would rather work on irons and drivers, but if you do want to putt, you can spend a little bit more and get like $3 to $5 per square foot on some premium turf to make it look a little nicer and feel better for putting.
Now, before we move on to your hitting strip, we're gonna explain one of the most important pieces to laying these down, which is you probably want some carpet tape on 2 of the sides. So the way we keep this in place and keep it from shifting is we just have a little carpet tape on the edges, which holds it down. Now, if you get more premium turf, it's probably gonna be a little heavier. You might not even need it. But one of the things you are gonna need is an expensive premium hitting strip, and we're gonna do that part next. So this is the most important piece of your flooring, and that's the hitting strip. We've tried a couple of different methods throughout the years. The first one was like this really popular divot action mat. It's realistic, and honestly, guys, it's not realistic at all. If you have one of those divot action mats that like bend down, the ball just floats in the air, it's not like actual golf. So what we found is best is just 1-inch thick turf. Now, we're gonna link our video on how to build this, but essentially all you need to do is get that 1-inch thick turf, get like a thin layer of plywood to kind of keep it sturdy, and you just gotta make sure that the turf plus your plywood matches the height of the rest of your flooring. Now, once you've built that using our video, then what you do is you need to lay it on the floor and you just need to cut out your area. Now, very important, this part of the build is crucial because if you tilt it the wrong way and it's not parallel to the screen, then you're gonna be aiming the wrong way on your simulator. So take your time with this, cut it correctly. It's better to cut a tiny bit smaller to start because you can always make it wider than cutting too wide to begin with.
So we built our premium hitting strip by ourselves, but if you guys don't want to build your own hitting strip, there are hitting strips that you can just buy and place right down, and we have links and discount codes below for those. Next step we're going to get into is the simulator enclosure space itself. So what we did here in our simulator build was we did a custom build, but there are plenty of just traditional simulator enclosures out there that are honestly pretty easy, pretty cheap, and still look just as good that you can get, and we'll link.
Well, I wouldn't say look just as good, like.
Maybe not just as good, but they do look good depending what vibe you're going for. But if you just kind of want that traditional simulator enclosure, we do have links for those below. But if you want to get into the custom ones, spend a little bit more money, spend a little bit more time, have it look nice and put some effort into it, we do have custom panels that you can build, which Jock's going to get into next.
So Ryan said this wasn't the budget option, but let me be clear. If you build all these by hand like we did, it's actually very affordable. You're probably in at $1,500 to build this enclosure, but he's right. If you do buy these panels, they become way more expensive. Now that's up to you, but we're gonna walk you through exactly how we built this enclosure, starting with the custom vinyl panels, which really take your simulator from, oh, that's cool, to wow, it looks incredible. So for these panels, they're pretty simple to make. We have a video that's gonna show you specifically how to do it, which we'll link right now. But essentially all it is, 3/8 plywood, egg crate foam, and marine vinyl leather. Then you basically just staple it, and it takes a lot of staples, and that's why this was a grueling process. There's like 120 staples per square. So you're gonna wanna get an electric stapler. Regardless, it looks incredible and is gonna save you a lot of money if you do it yourself, but you can also spend the money to have these made, and we'll link a company for that as well. Now, after you've made the majority of your wall panels or bought them or whatever, and I'm gonna say majority of, because generally when you're making these or buying these, there's gonna be a couple of pieces that you don't have the dimensions for until 90% of them are in place. Now, regardless, once you have built those, we actually need to build the enclosure. So I'm gonna take you behind our screen and show you how this was built. Now, I wanna start by saying I was not a construction guy. So while this may seem daunting, if I was able to do it, I think you can too. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna use 2x4 studs to build the frame. Now, what you can do is with these studs, you can just use constructive adhesive to bond the stud to the floor. If you want a little more sturdiness, there's essentially screws that go into concrete through the wood that you can put in as well. Now, once you have that flooring, you're gonna basically build studs 16 inches apart to build the rest of your frame. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna nail those in here to the base plate of your flooring. And then it's important that when you get the end of it to a wall, that's also kind of nailed in to keep it nice and sturdy. Now, once you put those studs in, all we used was OSB. So again, we're gonna link all these products in the description for you guys. But once you have your OSB, you pretty much just screw or nail gun that in as well. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. You've essentially built your frame, and then you just gotta make space for the opening. So once you built your enclosure, just make sure to make room for your screen. So ours are on 16x9 dimensions. And the most important piece I want you guys to lock in here is that I would give a minimum of 9 feet of height at the top of your screen. I think if you go below that, you're gonna have a lot of issues with a 60-degree wedge hitting up on the screen. So if I was to have built this again and I had the room, I would probably make it 16 feet wide by 10 feet high, and I would just accept that I'm gonna have a foot of white screen on the bottom. Or if I had enough room, I would go big enough that the screen was 10 feet high and it was still on a 16x9 dimension. Now you can do like a 4x3 dimension, but we just think 16x9 looks the most aesthetically pleasing. So now that we have our frame built and we've talked through that, we have our wall panels. How do you even attach these things to the wall? Now, if you have room behind your wall, I would just screw them in. We just put 4 screws in, and then we just made sure the length of the screw was not so long that it went through the wood of the panel. It's got to get into the panel, but you don't want it to go through it and essentially have a screw that could poke through your panels here. But if we didn't have room to screw it from behind, what we did is we screwed Velcro into the wall, 2-inch thick Velcro, and then basically just put Velcro on the panels and attached it that way, and this has held up great, and we're super happy with it. Now guys, here's another listen close part of the build. One of the, I don't want to call it biggest mistakes, but things that could have gone horribly wrong is we didn't realize these panels are more to protect your walls than to keep the balls from bouncing back. So they do keep the balls from bouncing back, but if you look at a lot of other builds, it's just a rectangle enclosure where every wall is gonna bounce the ball back into the screen. Now, that's not the case for us. So if you notice, we have this bumper on the bottom here, and we originally, when we built it, balls would come flying back way too fast. So if I was to do it again, I would not have this bumper. I just have the screen go all the way to the floor, and I would just kind of loop the screen underneath the flooring and like Velcro it or glue it down so that there was enough kind of space that balls didn't come flying back, but it's not so loose that like it looks bad, if that makes sense. Now the final piece of the enclosure build is your impact screen. Now, if you guys have watched our videos, you know that we took a big risk. We found these kind of secret guys on Reddit that get you an impact screen, like basically at the retail price, right? 50% off. And we just emailed these guys on Reddit. They told us to PayPal them. We PayPal'd them. We weren't sure if the screen was gonna come in. It did, and it's been incredible. We've had this thing for over 3 years. I actually bought a second one a year ago because I thought this was gonna wear out, and it's still going strong. So this screen is 3-ply, it's super sturdy, it's held up great. So all you need to do when you order your screen is you just wanna get a screen that's wider than your opening that you're showing by about 6 inches on each side or a foot total. Now, once you get it, it's super easy to attach. You have eye hooks, bungees, and tarp clips, and then you just tarp clip it together roughly every 18 inches. If you have extra screen, all you need to do is overlap it. Now, it seems like we're done, but there's one crucial piece I need to go over. And that crucial piece is you need to make sure that your screen and kind of your coverage is wider than your opening. So what a lot of beginners do is they don't build an overlap of their wood stud frame, and basically you just have exposed wood, or you'll have a gap between your screen and the side. So if you notice right here, here's the end of our stud, and we have this kind of panel that goes out about 1.5 inches, and then we make sure that our screen, it's basically wider than our opening so that there's no gaps in the screen.
All right, guys, now moving on to the next step, the simulators. First part, we're gonna start with the budget ones. If you've watched any of our videos, you know that our OG simulator, the Mevo Plus, is one of our favorite, one of our go-tos. It was $1,800 to $2,000, and we've used it with plenty of guys over the years, and we've absolutely loved it. So we've had plenty of the $20,000 simulators sent to us, but for the $2,000 Mevo Plus, we've had plenty of guys use it, and we feel like you get 99% of the experience, the accuracy, everything that you want with the Mevo Plus for just $2,000 compared to that $20,000. And now that leads us to the next one, is Mevo's updated version, the Mevo Gen 2. So this one's coming in about roughly $1,100, $1,200 if you don't really want some of that club data. If you want to spend a little bit more and get that club data, the pro package, the face impact, you can spend about $800 more. So for $2,000, the same price as the Mevo Plus, you can get the Mevo Gen 2.
And a couple of things I want to reiterate with the Mevo Gen 2. The Mevo Plus with those add-ons was actually closer to $2,700, $2,800. So the fact that if you want a super accurate golf simulator experience without the club information data, you basically can get a device that works awesome for cheaper, and then later on you can decide, hey, maybe I want more of that club information data, or I want to see where the ball impacts on my face. You can add that on later. Now, if you guys want to get this as cheap as possible, or any of the other launch monitors we're going to go over, links below and the discount codes are below. Now, we're going to move on to the prosumer level options. But before I go over that, there's a couple of budget launch monitors that are cheaper than the Mevo Gen 2. And I know some of you guys in the comments are going to be like, well, they're cheaper. What about those options? There's a lot of good options that start at like $700, $800. But what you don't realize with these other budget ones is they have subscription fees. So after a year or two, they're essentially more expensive than what the Mevo Gen 2 will be. So even though over $1,000 doesn't seem like budget golf simulator, because there's no subscription fees, we put it in that category. But if you guys want to spend a little bit more, there's a couple of really good options in that prosumer level price range, kind of $2,000 to $5,000. The first prosumer option that we absolutely love is the SkyTrak Plus, or you guys could get the new SkyTrak Plus Max. Now, the reason I like this one, it's again, extremely accurate. Now, will this simulator every 1 in 70 shots have something that's not perfect? Yes, it will, but so will literally every other device. And that's one of the things I want to go over when you either watch our reviews or you're making a decision. No device is perfect. There's always going to be maybe one thing that is a con, but overall, this thing is great. And really, one of the only cons to this is it's not set up for lefties and righties easily like the Mevo Gen 2. This sits right beside you, so if you're gonna have lefties and righties over, you're gonna have to pick it up and move it basically every hole or every other hole if you get GS Pro. But for this being right around $2,000, we think this is a great buy. But if you guys want to go to the top of the prosumer level price range, we got one of the coolest golf simulators we've ever reviewed.
And coming in next is the Garmin R50. What we really love about this one is it's a 3-in-1. So not only when you usually get a simulator, you have to get a computer or a PC, the simulator itself, and a projector. This baby's got all three of them in one. So obviously because of that, it's gonna naturally be a little bit more expensive. So this one's coming in right around $5,000. Another thing that we really love about this, other than the fact that it's a 3-in-1, is you literally need the Garmin R50 unit, a hitting mat, and a net, and you could take this thing in your backyard and have fun for hours out there, and that's all you need. And not only that, but it's also very accurate. We've tested this before, love the accuracy, love the features of it. The only slight con that we would say is for righties and lefties, you do have to kind of pick it up and move it from side to side. Overall, just a great product, 3-in-1, very nice.
And I wanna highlight that lefty and righty thing because as a lefty, that's something I highly consider. Now, if you do wanna use these kind of side-sitting devices with lefties and righties, the only program you can really use is GS Pro, and that's because they have the play out hole option, which means instead of switching every shot, what you do is you play out the entire hole. So if I'm a lefty with 3 righties, I play out the hole as a lefty, then the righties all play hole 1, the righties all play hole 2, and then I play hole 2 and hole 3. So you switch every 2 holes, where if you don't have GS Pro, I don't think the other simulator programs have that option, which means you'd have to switch it every shot. And at that point, guys, I'm not switching this thing every single shot. We're just going with the Mevo Gen 2, or we're spending a lot more and getting an overhead, and it's gonna be good. Now, speaking of overheads, we're gonna move into the commercial grade golf simulators. We're gonna show you our favorite one. Let's get into it. Now, our favorite commercial golf simulator that we have used for the last year is the Uneekor IXO2. So this hangs overhead, and this is just top of the line. This is gonna range kind of during Black Friday times anywhere from like 8 grand to 11 grand. I'm not exactly sure what the price point is, but no, like we've said, if you use our discount codes and links below, you're gonna get the lowest available price. Now, the reason we love this thing, first off, lefties and righties, super easy because it's overhead of you. Ginormous hitting zone, and it just has amazing accuracy and tons of features, which makes this just the best experience. Whether you're running a commercial business, you're playing golf with your friends in your garage, this has been our go-to, and I'm gonna highlight a couple of reasons why. First off, like I said, the accuracy, incredible. With all the devices I named before, you probably get 1 in every 18 holes a shot that you're like, okay, that was off. I can probably name on 2 hands the amount of times I've had a read on here that was like, oh, that's for sure off, which is insane. We go thousands of shots where, right, Ryan, I don't think we even question the, like, it's just, no. You don't even question it. And that's how you know a device is top of the line, is you've hit on every device, you know your yardages, and you don't question for a second the reading you're getting. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the features. So if you want super accurate club data, you're going to put these stickers on your club. And so if you can see, not only do we get all these club data metrics, which just are awesome for diagnosing your swing, but you also get a slow-mo replay of the club through impact and a photo, and I cannot tell you how valuable that is. Some of the other devices, like the Mevo Gen 2, for its price point, is gonna give you all of that same data. And so even though I can tell from the Mevo Gen 2, okay, that club path was 2.3 degrees working left, there's something about seeing it on camera that helps people go, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Now, like I said, this has been our favorite one, but we just added a brand new one, which we're gonna go even above commercial grade. We're gonna call it the PGA Tour grade, and Ryan's gonna explain this next one.
So like Jock said about the Uneekor IXO2, when we got all the buddies in here, we're just drinking, having fun, hanging out. We love the accuracy about it, we never doubt it. But if you wanna get to the 100%, no hesitation, no doubts, we got the Foresight GC Quad. So there's a reason that the PGA Tour pros are consistently using this outside on the range, because there is seriously no hesitation. You can 100% trust the accuracy and the numbers on this one. So just to talk about some of the ball data and the club information, the difference between the Uneekor IXO2 and the Foresight GC Quad Max for ball data is really no difference. They're pretty much the exact same. We would say for club information with the Foresight GC Quad Max is a little bit more accurate and just kind of the top of the line there that you can 100% trust.
And I kind of want to reiterate that a little bit. Like, the Uneekor IXO2 club data is really, really good. The averages are right, but probably like 10 to 15% of the time, the club information data, we're not like 100% sure on, but we think the video replay kind of outweighs that. But if you're like a club fitter, if you're someone who's trying to go pro and you want the just like no questions, like we said with the club information and ball information data, it's the GC Quad Max. This thing, if I'm gonna practice and work on my club path, making sure all those numbers are dialed, that's the device I would use. And kind of like we said, the only downside, Brian, is kind of the lefty and righty play. You'd have to pick it up and move it every 2 holes with GS Pro. But like if you want an overhead option, they have the Foresight Falcon, which is the same thing, but overhead. The only reason we didn't go with that one is because we really like the video replay and photo impact, which the Falcon doesn't have. But again, if you're a club fitter, the fact that this has no subscription fees and some of the other devices do, as a club fitter, I would be going Foresight and no questions asked. If you're running a commercial business, it's probably, right, I'd probably go, if we were running a business, probably Uneekor IXO2 because of the a little bit cheaper price.
Pretty much.
And just like the features that, you know, when you're drinking with your buddies are awesome to have.
All right, guys, next up is step 4, the projector. We've tested some projectors out before. The projector that we used in this build was about $1,000 and it was pretty solid, but we noticed a few issues where if like you had any lights on, it just became hard to see. And once we kind of spent that top dollar for a high quality projector, we just noticed insane differences. So Jock's gonna talk about what projector we have now and why we love it.
So after the projector we got with this build, we were like, okay, it's finally time to upgrade, because essentially if we put on our lights for filming, the thing was like almost impossible to see. Now, one thing I wanna go over on this camera, it's gonna look worse than it actually is. How lighting settings work on camera, when you expose lighting for people, the projector is always gonna look worse on camera than it does in real life. But we upgraded, guys, to a Ricoh projector and it has been incredible. For the first time ever, we can open our garage door to the patio and perfectly see the screen. We can put NFL football games on. We have a movie theater room, and it's like amazing that we can have as many lights on as we want. It can be as bright out as we want, and the screen is crystal clear. So the quality, ginormous upgrade. Now, if you guys are looking for Ricoh projectors, they are what we recommend. They're top of the line. They're in the description. But one of the biggest things we have to go over is projectors are not just you buy one and it works. They all fit to a certain size. So some of them have a little bit of play, but essentially we've had a lot of people make mistakes where they buy a projector and it wouldn't fit the screen properly. So when you go with your Ricoh projector, what you wanna look at is the throw ratio. And what that means is basically how big does the screen size get for how far away it is. Now, the best way to figure that out, once you find a couple Ricoh projectors that you could like, look them up on projectorcentral.com, and then basically when you calculate the projector distance, it'll tell you how far away does this projector need to be to fit the screen size. Now, what that means is you need to kind of measure what your screen size is gonna be, and then you can figure out which Ricoh projector is going to work best. And then a couple of other tidbits that are important. The projector is going to want to hang essentially at the top of your screen. So we're gonna link kind of the attachment things that you're gonna put into your ceiling to get a pole that drops down and connects to the projector. But just know this is a crucial piece, guys. You can't skip steps, and if you wanna go with the best, Ricoh projectors are the best. All right, guys, final step is the computer to run your golf simulator. Now, some of them don't need computers, like the Mevo Gen 2 or the Garmin R50, you don't need them. Mevo Gen 2, you could use a phone or an iPad, save money on a computer. The R50, it's integrated, but for most of these, you'll need a computer. Now, it's very important you get one that is powerful enough to run programs. So a good story about this is I had a buddy who I set up with a simulator. I sent him one of our cheap PCs and it wouldn't run GS Pro. It like wasn't powerful enough. It would keep disconnecting, so we had to upgrade. Now, even though we built our computers, we're not like experts on essentially the minimum graphics card or CPU or whatever that you need. So to make it simple, we have linked computers below that will run these programs perfectly, and you can go with a cheaper one that's gonna run it on just kind of medium graphics, or you can go all out, get an expensive one that runs it at the highest quality graphics. All right, guys, and that is how you can build your dream home golf simulator on a budget, at a prosumer level, or the premium way. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at golfbustersofficial@gmail.com. Discount codes and links below, and we'll see you in the next one.